Hey Taurus, it's Rebecca from Being Human Tarot here with your November 2018 reading. This month I'm reading with the Illus Tarot, which I'll link to in the description if you're interested in. It's a really cool deck which uses the images of sort of pop culture icons from the 90s for the majors and the court cards. So if you're a child of the 90s like me, you might get a lot of joy out of that. The caveat with this deck is that the minors are all represented super literally. So if you pull the Five of Cups, for example, it's just 5 cups on the card. No other illustrations or depictions accompanying it. And so for that reason, it's really challenging to read intuitively. And I'll be referencing Smith Rider-Waite imagery to help guide myself along, just FYI. What else? I'm sticking with the same 3-card spread that I have in previous months. So the first card represents what to focus on this month. The second card represents what to set aside for the month, and the third card indicates an additional consideration for the month. So, to get into your reading, in position of what to focus on this month, you drew the Lovers, represented here by Liz Fair. Good old Liz. And the words, sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied in your video, Taurus. Contrary to popular belief, the Lovers is not a super romantic card in terms of finding your ultimate lover, like finding the love of your life, that kind of thing. It's more about self-love, and really discovering that self-love through kinds of different means of reflection. In particular, kind of like looking into a mirror and seeing what is it when you look in it, like how does that reflect back, which is why this is this sort of double image of her holds up really well for the Lovers. And so this month you're being asked to really look at yourself. If you've felt like if you've fallen out of love with who you are, or I mean, it can relate to a partner. If you've been in a relationship with someone and you're feeling like it's not what it used to be, then it is about, when it is about another person, it's then also about you. What's going on with you, and not in a blamey way, but we just all go through cycles and phases with ourselves and our partners, especially long-term partners, where our level of like romance and sex and all of these kinds of things change. So where is the self-work that you need to do to be your own lover, right? And not in like a masturbatory way, but like, sure, like if that specifically speaks to you, then great. But it really is about checking in with yourself, recognizing the places that you may have not been giving a lot of attention. What parts of you have you been neglecting, and you've not been the best, protector and carer of yourself? It's some deep work to do, and it's major arcana. So it's heavy. It's a little heavy, but it's good. It's going to feel good when you do it. Like, it might be very painful to like initially address and to kind of like do the work of oh, well, there's this part of me. I've been letting like family stuff like dictate how I feel about myself in this, in my job, or like whatever, in whatever way makes sense for your life. It's painful to think about that stuff. But once you start thinking about it, and once you start doing the work to like undo those knots and those thought patterns, you're really left with a much freer space for yourself, a much more loving space for yourself to exist in. So it's worth it. And it's your focus for the month. In your card of what to set aside, you drew the Ace of Wands. Some outside noise, sorry about that. Which is about sparking creativity, new passion, and usually it's very excited. It's the potential to like pop off something great. And that could be, it's fire energy, so it's whatever kind of like fiery passion or creative venture makes sense for you. Like, you have everything you need within you to hook that up. However, asterisk, it's in your position of set aside. And so what the cards are really telling you is that you need to do this work first. You need to focus on the stuff that's not working within you, the stuff that you need to repair so that you can love yourself more fully before you start trying to pop off your next big thing. You have everything you need for this next big thing as soon as this work is done. So if you've been kind of raring to go on something, if you're like, could be a trap, could be, something that's not even like your whole next big project kind of thing. It could just be like, you're gonna go on that trip you've always wanted to go on. Like you've got the resources, you've made the plan, you're ready to go. And you should, but you gotta figure yourself out first. You gotta figure yourself out, because all it's going to do is super enhance when you do go on that trip, or when you do start that project, or when you do, meet that partner. Think of how much more deeply you'll be able to connect with someone and give back to them as well as yourself once you've got all your own stuff figured out and are in that much of a healthier place. In your final position of additional consideration, you drew the Nine of Swords. So, and I'll explain this one because it's the first card you drew that would actually look pretty drastically different in Smith Rider-Waite. Well, I mean, obviously the Lovers would too, but at least there's sort of like some imagery there to work with. So Nine of Swords in Smith Rider-Waite is the person sitting up in bed. Their hand is like over their head. There's 9 like metaphorical swords piercing them. And all of that is about worry. It's about extreme anxiety. It's about the games that our minds play with us. False beliefs. Things we tell ourselves to keep us in a holding pattern, to keep us from progressing. And so as an additional consideration, it's to be mindful of exactly when this happens to you. Because frankly, the biggest barrier to you getting to a more loving relationship with yourself is those kinds of thoughts. They're not kind. And it's hard, because it's very hard, because we all grow up, in one society or another with certain tropes and different expectations being reinforced over and over again, different people telling us that we should be this way or that way, that stuff gets so deeply embedded and can lead to all of this like tumult, second guessing, extreme worry, insomnia. And you're gonna have to do the heavy ass work of clearing yourself. You know, no one is ever fully clear of those things, but you're doing the work of clearing yourself from as much as possible, from at least giving yourself enough of a space to have some like illumination about and clarity about what it means to treat yourself right and to love yourself. So that is your reading, Taurus, for this month. I know it's a little heavy, but it's like good heavy because it's gonna feel like after this month, or I guess I can't fully say after this month because it's going to take different amounts of time for different people. Sometimes this, and like in some ways it's like it's a lifelong journey to love yourself. Like that's a hard thing for most people. But once you're finished, you get this like prize at the end of the Ace of Wands. So you're like ready for your next adventure once you do that groundwork. If you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. After you subscribe to the channel, if you hit the bell icon, you will automatically be notified as soon as I upload this suite of videos for all the signs, which I do before the 1st of every month. So I hope you feel called to do that. I will now pause this and pan down so that you can see your reading visually, because that's helpful and that's kind of like how you would naturally see it in an in-person reading. So that's it. Thanks, Taurus. So as you can see, you've got your focus of the Lovers, set aside of the Ace of Wands, and additional consideration of the Nine of Swords. Thanks for tuning in.